Good afternoon / evening, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are here to bring you live coverage of some developing news today regarding Ukraine and Russia and the U.S. President Biden, just a couple months before he leaves office, has given Ukraine permission to use US-made ATACMS long-range missiles on targets inside Russia for the first time. Ukraine has long wanted to use these long-range missiles on targets inside Russia, but the U.S. would not let them. But that has changed, and apparently there might be still some limits on the usage of these ATACMS long-range missiles, but for the first time, Ukraine will be able to use these on Russian targets inside Russia. So we want to bring you an update on this and take some of your comments and questions on the air. Talk about the Ukraine-Russia situation in general. And you can write to me during the broadcast. At Lookner on X is where you can reach me, at Lookner on X. For the moment, we actually have the X graphic up here. Trying that new graphic out thanks to Sonic. So we'll see how that graphic, if that graphic works. Okay, give me 1 second here. I do want to shout out our moderators and thank them for being here. I really appreciate our mods being here. Thank you. Hold on a second. We have Beth Mythical and Roberts May Queen and RJ are all moderating right now on YouTube, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. Linda Bell and Ruth Krafasi and Sabrina, thank you so much. Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X. Over there on Facebook, Ronald Egnor, Beth Shepard, Kay Lowry Body, all over there moderating. And on Twitch, thanks to our moderators there. Mick Bridges is there right now moderating. Hey, and thanks so much to Ernie for your support. I really appreciate Ernie. And also thanks to our members V and Josh Barnes, Eliza Jane, Valleys 56XX, All That's Random, Marnie and Fufu Fantasia, all those members over there on YouTube. I really appreciate it. All right, let's start talking about this. Let's get into it. Oh, thanks also to Warlord God, Warlord Gord, for subscribing over there on Twitch. All right, hang on a second here. Where is the thing I want to pull up here? Why is this not really working? Hold on a second here. Huh, that's interesting. Sorry, there's a map I normally use and it doesn't seem to be working great. So maybe I'll pull up a different map. Normally I use this map. What's wrong with this map? Why isn't it working? Very strange. Odd. I'm going to pull up a different map for you. The map I normally use is not working today for some reason. Maybe they're having some issues over there. I'm going to sneeze. Oh my gosh. Okay. We'll pull this up right here. There we go. That's better. Sorry, I did not realize that the map was not working. Just to remind everybody, we're talking about Ukraine right there. There's Ukraine. There's Russia. Here's Russia. There's Moscow. There's Ukraine. Okay. Let's begin with a little summary here from the Associated Press to get us going. Biden authorizes Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied long-range missiles for deeper strikes inside Russia. This is something Ukraine has wanted for a long time, but there was worry in the Biden administration that it would be provocative. Okay, President Biden, and this, I don't think this has been officially announced yet. It's being reported everywhere, though. Being reported by a lot of different outlets. President Biden has authorized Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied long-range missiles, which they already had, to strike deeper inside Russia, easing limitations on the weapons as Russia deploys thousands of North Korean troops to reinforce its war. Now, just to be clear, they phrase it a bit differently in this story than some other stories. See, the Reuters headline is Biden allows Ukraine to use U.S. arms to strike inside Russia. The Washington Post says long-range weapons inside Russia. So I believe it's a little bit of a strange headline because I don't believe the U.S. had been allowed, that the U.S. had allowed. Previously, as from what I know, Ukraine had not been allowed to use this specific weapon inside Russia. Yes. So I don't know. It's kind of an odd headline. But it's not just that they can be used. In theory, my point is the ATACMS have not been allowed to be used inside Russia before. So the decision allowing Ukraine to use the Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, for attacks farther inside Russia, well, I think it's for any attacks in Russia, comes as President Putin positions North Korean troops along Ukraine's northern border to try to reclaim hundreds of miles of territory seized by Ukrainian forces. Biden's move also follows the presidential election victory of Trump, who said he would bring about a swift end to the war, we'll see if that happens, and raised uncertainty about whether Trump's administration would continue the United States' vital military support for Ukraine. Now, this is a decision that the Trump administration could reverse if they want to. President Zelensky of Ukraine and many of his Western supporters have been pressing Biden for months to allow Ukraine to strike military targets deeper inside Russia with Western-supplied missiles, saying the U.S. ban had made it impossible for Ukraine to try to stop Russian attacks on its cities and electrical grids. Again, it's kind of weird the way they're stating this. If you look at the Washington Post article, it says, President Biden has authorized Ukraine to use a powerful American long-range weapon for limited strikes inside Russia in response to North Korea's deployment of thousands of troops to aid Moscow's war effort, according to 2 U.S. senior officials. The easing of restrictions on allowing Ukraine to use the Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, to hit targets inside Russia is a significant reversal in U.S. policy and comes as some 10,000 elite North Korean troops have been sent to Kursk, a region of Russia along Ukraine's northern border, to help Moscow's forces retake territory gained by Ukraine. So we'll get into some of the details of this. But is this something that Biden would have done if Harris had won the election and not Trump? Is this something that Biden would have done if he wasn't at the end of his presidency? So that's a whole other interesting question. A bunch of our viewers are saying nope. I don't know. Is he doing it to try to say help Ukraine as much as possible because he thinks U.S. aid will be less under Trump? Iva Lynn Berry Speedell says, I don't think Biden would have. Some of these articles talk about this stuff, so we'll talk about it. Zozo says he has 2 months. By the way, quick thanks to Connor Garrity. Connor says, will the UK allow their long-range missiles to be used by Ukraine also? So I believe both Ukraine and France have sent long-range missiles to Ukraine, but this, I believe, we'll talk. Some of the articles mention something about that, so we'll get into it. But it's thought that Ukraine, that like France and the UK might lessen their restrictions now that with their missiles, now that the US has lessened restrictions on its long-range missiles. But it's not clear. I mean, there's no reporting that is, I don't think there's any, I haven't seen reliable reporting that has happened yet. But certainly this could impact other countries' weapons policies with Ukraine as well. Thank you, Connor Garrity. Also thanks to Christiane, our member. Ermi T gave 20 people memberships. That's really nice of you, Ermi T. Please make sure you thank somebody if they gave you a gift membership or a gift subscription. Also thanks to Shaf for the gift memberships and Marnie for the gift memberships. And Chris Canada, Quebec City, who thinks this decision should have been made 2 years ago. That's the problem. We are always reactive, North Korea, and not proactive. Some of our viewers don't like this decision. Some of our viewers really like this decision. How provocative will this really be to Russia? People who support this decision have been saying for months, oh, Russia likes to talk talk threatening, but they're not actually going to do much about this. But a worry about this kind of use is that it could be very provocative to Russia. I can't tell you in advance how Russia's going to react. Flumpingtons, our viewer, thinks it's a terrible decision. Some of our viewers like it, some of our viewers do not. Castle Keeper says things inside have been hit way inside Russia for years. Nothing new, just Biden annoying Putin before he goes. Well, for example, Ukraine has launched drone attacks a significant distance inside Russia, but that's not using. These missiles would carry bigger payloads than drones, and could do more damage than drones would. And they're from America. But I know what you're saying. Thank you to Jim for your support. Jim says, thank you, Joe Biden. This timely step will surely make a difference. Ukrainians will appreciate the support, especially now that they are free from electricity bills and any hopes of winning. So Jim is being sarcastic. He thinks this is coming too late. And thanks also to Sean TV. Thanks, Sean. Sean says, even if we stopped sending help to Ukraine, none of those resources will be used to help Americans because the Republicans won't allow it. So stop pushing the helping of Ukraine hurts Americans narrative. That's what Sean TV thinks. And thanks also to DJ. DJ seems to be hoping that Putin will be removed in a coup. There's no sign I've heard of that happening. Thank you, DJ. Ray J. Petrie does not like the decision. All right, let's talk a little more about this in a little more detail. Let's talk a little more about this. Okay, I'm going to take some more of your comments, some interesting comments here. But let's get into the details of this a little more. I actually, this is a good article. This Washington Post was one of the first outlets to report this, and I thought this was a good article. So let's look at some of this article. So Biden approves Ukraine's use of long-range U.S. weapons inside Russia, reversing policy. President Biden has authorized Ukraine to use a powerful American long-range weapon for limited strikes, supposedly not saying you can use it wherever you want, for limited strikes inside Russia in response to North Korea's deployment of thousands of troops to aid Moscow's war effort, according to senior U.S. officials. Now, is that really the reason Biden's doing it? Because he could be just using North Korea sending troops to Russia as an excuse. I can't tell you if that's the real reason, or is this just something that Biden wanted to do and the North Korean troops being sent to Russia gave him a convenient excuse? That I don't know. The easing of restrictions on allowing Ukraine to use the Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, to hit targets inside Russia is a significant reversal in U.S. policy and comes as some 10,000 elite North Korean troops have been sent to Kursk, a region of Russia along Ukraine's northern border, to help Moscow's forces retake territory gained by Ukraine. So if you've been following this, several months ago, Ukraine forces crossed the border and took some territory in Kursk, Russia. And supposedly Russia is going to soon launch some big counteroffensive to take the territory back. Kursk region is here. I can actually pull it up on the map here. There is the Kursk region right there. Thanks, by the way, to CornPop82. CornPop82 says, I thought the big deal with ATACMS is they use U.S. satellites, more direct involvement. I don't know about that, but it is maybe one of these articles will say something about that. But it certainly is a U.S.-made weapon. It's a U.S.-made weapon. Kender thinks it's something we should have been doing a long time ago, whereas another viewer thinks it could start World War III. Tiki Fix thinks if the world doesn't help Ukraine, Russia will not stop there. All right, let's read a little more about this. Let's get a little more detail on this from the Washington Post. The Biden administration fears that more North Korean special forces units could follow the 10,000 North Korean troops already in Russia, and the Biden administration fears that more North Korean special forces units could follow in support of this effort. The move by Biden precedes by 2 months the return to the White House of President-elect Donald Trump, who has signaled he intends to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, though without offering details of how he will do so. One U.S. official told the Washington Post this move is in part, not wholly, aimed at deterring North Korea from sending more troops. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un must understand that the initial deployment of troops has been a costly mistake, said the U.S. official. The initial Ukrainian effort using these ATACMS long-range missiles is expected to focus on and around the Kursk region, though it could expand, according to the official and another person familiar with the matter. The White House and Pentagon declined to comment. Ukraine's presidential office declined to comment. So, again, the spin we're hearing on this in these initial stories coming from U.S. officials is that, well, a big reason for this is that North Korea moved these troops into Russia, and initially Ukraine, they're going to be limited into how they can use these long-range missiles in Russia, and we're going to let them use them to help in the Kursk region, where these North Korean troops are supposed to help Russia conduct this big counteroffensive coming up against this Ukrainian incursion into Kursk. But I personally wouldn't be surprised to see these missiles being used on other targets that have nothing to do with Kursk or North Korean troops in Russia at some point. But we'll see. Softball Paul thinks this is great news. Jerry Cole thinks Putin will show restraint knowing there's a new sheriff in town soon. Eric says, I think this has nothing to do with Trump. There are much bigger happenings in this conflict than the upcoming transfer of power in U.S. presidency. I wish the deep state map was working. I normally show you guys deep state map. For whatever reason, it's not working today. Why isn't it working? Hold on, maybe I can switch something here. Oh, I got it. I got it working better. This is a map called Deep State Map. I really like this map. I'll post a link to it in the chat. But this is nice. There's Ukraine. Where's the thing with the colors? How do I get the colors on it? I haven't pulled this up here in a little while. Let's see. There's settings. Standard. Show defense lines. Simplified view. Dark theme. No, I don't like the dark theme, really. Where do I see... Oh, I'm sorry. So there's Ukraine. If we zoom in, where's Kursk? Here. Kursk. Why can't I see right now the liberated area? Okay. Here we go. So the blue, I believe the blue part of here is where Ukrainian troops are on Russian territory. See, here's Ukraine. This is deep state map. Here's Ukraine. Here's Russia. And you can see it says Kursk Oblast, Kursk region. And you can see across the border, there's some territory that Ukrainian forces actually hold. Supposedly there's a big counteroffensive coming up from Russia. I'm going to post a link to, it's a good map. I'm going to post a link to this map in the chat right now. I appreciate them letting me show it to you. Hold on, let me just post this for you guys in the chat. It's called Deep State Map. Deep State Map. I just posted the link. So you can check out that map if you'd like. Let's see here. Old Mordim says, if you think Putin cares about life, he has sent 600,000 of his people into a meat grinder for what? His own power. Margin Call says, Putin is not going to stop. It will signal defeat. This is his legacy. Thank you, Captain Jerry Donnelly, for your support. Captain Jerry Donnelly believes North Korean special forces are efficient robots. Take out their leadership to win battles. Thanks also, Uncle Zed, our new member. Let's get a few more details here on this. Again, Biden approves Ukraine's use of long-range U.S. weapons inside Russia, reversing policy. Until recently, says the Washington Post, the Biden administration was steadfastly, that means strongly, until recently, the Biden administration was strongly opposed to Ukraine firing ATACMS missiles into Russian territory, warning that the measure could lead to escalation by the Kremlin that was out of proportion to its battlefield benefits. How might the Kremlin escalate? Some of these articles talk about this, but, you know, if Russia got mad enough about this, could they target U.S. forces somewhere? I mean, theory. Would they actually do that? I don't know. But you have to judge when giving Ukraine this permission. Does the benefit outweigh the cost? The arrival of the North Koreans in the Kursk region of Russia in October, where Ukraine launched a surprise offensive in August, was seen as a major escalation by the West and spurred an intense effort inside the Biden administration and with allies on how to respond. This is also very interesting here. The White House wants to put Ukraine in the best possible place ahead of peace talks that the new U.S. President Trump is expected to spearhead early in his term, U.S. officials said. Even before the election, Biden had committed to surging aid to Ukraine in an effort to cement his legacy on his way out of office. Secretary of State Blinken said President Biden has committed to making sure that every dollar we have at our disposal will be pushed out the door between now and January 20th, he said on Wednesday, when he was meeting with European counterparts to discuss how to support Ukraine in the wake of the Trump win. Interesting. What do you guys think? Burn992 says, I think it's fair game Russia brought in North Korean soldiers, so Ukraine gets missiles. Kizmaru the DK says, escalation this, escalation that, fear, fear, fear. That's pretty much what Russia pushes. Biden was right to be careful before, but the Russians have ignored every option, so I say take off the brakes. Quake Clouds thinks two former Soviet states squabbling over farmland has never been any of our business. Now, I do think that many would characterize this not as a squabble over farmland, but as Ukraine fighting against a Russian invasion. But you might still make the same point. You might think that's not totally relevant to your point. Wee Nesty says, the people celebrating this are diabetic neckbeards who will never set foot in war. It's a huge escalation and nothing good will come of it. Thanks to JR for your support, by the way, and Georgina Stoliker, our member, and also Softball Paul for subscribing on Twitch. There's a more interesting stuff in this article I want to read you, but I did see something interesting here from Reuters. Now, you should not Russia, like Iran, is a country where frequently politicians and leaders in Russia and Iran like to say very, very threatening things that very often are not followed up on. Now, that doesn't mean they always don't follow up or that they won't follow up or back it up, but I just want to give you some perspective here. So Reuters has a headline, Ukraine strikes on Russia with U.S. missiles could lead to world war, Russian lawmakers say. Washington's decision to let Ukraine strike deep into Russia with long-range U.S. missiles escalates the conflict in Ukraine and could lead to World War III, senior Russian lawmakers said on Sunday. Two U.S. officials and a source familiar with the decision revealed the significant reversal of Washington's policy in the Ukraine-Russia conflict earlier on Sunday. Andrei Klishas, A senior member of the Federation Council, Russia's upper chamber of parliament, said on Telegram, "The West has decided on such a level of escalation that it could end with the Ukrainian statehood in complete ruins by morning." Vladimir Zabarov, first deputy head of Russian Upper House's International Affairs Committee, said Moscow's response will be immediate. "This is a very big step towards the start of World War III," the TASS Russian state news agency quoted Zabarov as saying. President Putin said in September that the West would be fighting Russia directly if it allowed Ukraine to strike Russian territory with Western long-range missiles, a move he said would alter the nature and scope of the conflict. Russia would be forced to take what Putin called appropriate decisions based on the new threats. Leonid Slutsky, chairman of the State Duma Lower House's Foreign Affairs Committee, said a U.S. authorization of strikes by Ukraine on Russia with U.S. ATACMS tactical missiles would lead to the toughest response. Strikes with U.S. missiles deep into Russian regions will inevitably entail a serious escalation, he said, which threatens to lead to much more serious consequences. Will they back this up? Is this just bluster? What can I tell you? I guess we'll see, because these strikes are going to happen. Ali B says all these articles are just fear-mongering. Well, to be clear, the article itself is not actually making any pronunciations. The article is just telling you what Russian lawmakers are saying. So if you think there's fear-mongering, you should blame Putin and the Russian lawmakers quoted in the article, not the article. Thank you so much, Ali B from Tennessee. Maybe that was your point. Thank you also, Sergeant Klein, our member. Thank you, Punished FOXO, who says, if someone doesn't like U.S. involvement, they had every chance to speak out against the agreements to supply arms made prior to 2022. They said nothing. That's what Punished Foxo says. Thank you, Jim, for your support. Jim says Biden is doing the minimum to prevent a Ukrainian collapse during his tenure. In 2022, Putin leveled a dozen cities and attempted to take the Ukrainian capital. Putin escalated in 2023-2024. How? Pre-Breakfast Banana believes it's a game changer. Pre-Breakfast Banana says Russia has been able to attack without fear of response from inside Russia. This means Ukraine can hit them back when they strike. Nid-Wentu thinks Biden held off on this due to wanting re-election, which didn't work out. Old Mordim says, all these serious consequences. This article is telling us what Russia has been saying since they invaded Ukraine. Simon B. Puck says, war is war. Russia has been doing what it wants. Why not Ukraine using weapons from wherever? Detroit-born says, SMH, keep doubting Putin. Had no regard in attacking Ukraine to begin with, so who's to say he's bluffing now? Wild Boy says, finally good news. Fila Man says it's a positive. It will serve to tighten the screws on Russia. Robin the Hood says up to 180 miles, not a game changer. KH says, is it too late? That's the question. Stug says, which target will Ukraine strike first? Well, the Washington Post article quoted a U.S. official as saying the initial targets are supposed to be in Kursk. Let's show you some more details on this. Again, many outlets reporting that Biden has approved Ukraine using U.S. long-range missiles, ATACMS missiles, on targets inside Russia for the first time. Wall Street says ATACMS are pretty advanced. Give me 1 second here. Let me just open something up here, see if this works. Look, I see a flash thinks it's a huge game changer for Ukraine. Noodle Swage thinks it's insane. Thanks, by the way, to Jenny W. for your support. That's nice of you. Jenny says, give Ukraine whatever they need to defend themselves. Threats of tactical nuclear weapons, well, Putin would say that, wouldn't he? He's nothing but a thug. Barb Filer says, I'm nervous about it. All right, let's get more details on this. Actually, why don't we take a poll first? Let's take a poll first. Let's do this. Will Putin escalate strongly when Ukraine starts firing ATACMS? Hits Russia with ATACMS. There it is. That's my question to you. Let's see what you guys say about this. Let's see what our viewers think. Will Putin escalate strongly when Ukraine starts hitting Russian territory with ATACMS missiles? Oopsie. Hold on a second. One moment here. I messed something up. Sorry. There's a big white patch on the screen. I have to get that off. Sorry, that's my fault. Let me remove that. There we go. Sorry. That wasn't what I was trying to do. I was trying to show you the poll. Okay. According to our YouTube viewers, 69% of you think Putin is going to escalate strongly. I mean, so that would mean he's doing something big that he hasn't done before. I don't know what that is. But 69% of you think Putin's going to escalate strongly. That's a big percentage. How about Twitch? What are people saying over there? Let's see. On Twitch doesn't let you type long poll questions, so I have to shorten them for Twitch. So I said, Putin escalates strongly when Ukraine hits Russia with ATACMS. 50-50 over there on Twitch. Mouse says he always does the same. T-Buck says Russia doesn't have the blank. Alan Owen says the only escalation would be nuclear. He has nothing else. Well, I mean, for example, he could target U.S. troops somewhere. Well, some of these articles talk about that. We'll read some more about it. Next Bike thinks Putin is having to bring in North Korean troops because Russia is running out of men. Diane Allworth thinks Putin is not rational. Shameless Senpai, our member, thinks Putin will retaliate, but it won't be huge. All right, thanks for voting in our poll, by the way. Let's wrap up the poll. Thank you, Bebop and Rocksteady. Yes, I posted about that this morning or last night. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, let's get a little more information on this. Again, President Biden has authorized Ukraine to use a powerful long-range weapon for limited strikes inside Russia in response to North Korea's deployment of thousands of troops to aid Moscow's war effort, according to two senior U.S. officials. The easing of restrictions on allowing Kyiv to use the ATACMS missiles to hit targets inside Russia is a significant reversal in U.S. policy. And comes as some 10,000 elite North Korean troops have been sent to Kursk, a region of Russia along Ukraine's northern border, to help Moscow's forces retake territory gained by Ukraine. Hold on a second here. Hang on. Let me show you guys. All right, so let me show you some more analysis from this article. Okay, until recently, the Biden administration was strongly opposed to Ukraine firing ATACMS long-range missiles into Russian territory, warning that the measure could lead to escalation by Russia that was out of proportion to the benefits on the battlefield. ATACMS, pronounced ATACMS, is a supersonic guided missile system that can be fitted with either cluster munitions or conventional warheads. With a maximum range of about 190 miles. Ukraine for months has sought permission to use the powerful missiles against Russian territory, arguing that the weapons would enable its strapped forces to strike deep into the country and hit targets that would degrade the Kremlin's war machine. Now, let me just give you a sense of how far this reaches inside Russia. We can pull up our Google map here. So here's Ukraine, and there's Russia. There's Kursk. There's Moscow. Moscow is about 277 miles from the border. So it's not far enough to hit Moscow, just to be clear. That's 277 miles. So even if these missiles, I don't know where they'd fire them from, but if they fired them close to the border, that's like 200 miles right there. Russia's a very big country. So, but just to give you a sense, I mean, it looks like it pretty much could hit all of the Kursk region. So, supposedly, Russia has about 50,000 troops massed to try to take back the part of the Kursk region that Ukraine forces have taken in the last few months. So, that could be a target. All right, hold on. Let's go back to this. The arrival, a Washington Post says, the arrival of the North Koreans in the Kursk region in October, where Ukraine launched a surprise offensive in August, was seen as a major escalation by the West and spurred an intense effort inside the Biden administration and with allies on how to respond. I think we read that already. Okay. One U.S. official said Biden's approval of ATACMS is going to have very specific and limited effect on the battlefield, designed to limit concerns about escalation. Is that true? I don't know. Michael Kaufman, who's an expert on Russian and Ukrainian militaries, Michael Kaufman said, if news of the policy shift is true, then it could be of operational benefit to Ukraine, enabling them to better defend and hold on to the territory they currently occupy in Kursk, Russia, and help offset the benefit that Russia enjoys from employing North Korean forces in this specific part of the front. But keep this in mind. Previous steps to help Ukraine, framed as limited, have cracked the door to wider forms of military assistance over the course of the nearly 3-year war. So, again, some of these quotes from U.S. officials are suggesting, well, this approval is limited, and Ukraine's going to use these missiles on the Kursk region, but it's very possible that Ukraine just starts using these missiles in whatever way to attack whatever targets they want. I mean, military targets they want, not just in the Kursk region. I'm going to read you some more here in a second because I think it's an interesting article. 66 Modal says, explain their change of policy. I mean, it's not exactly clear. Maybe it's because Trump is coming into office and Biden wants to help them as much as possible before that. Not sure. Has Trump said anything about this today? I'm not aware of it. That doesn't mean the answer is no. This only came out about 4 or 5 hours ago, this news. Trump hasn't posted on his True Social about it. One of our viewers said Trump Jr. posted about this. I didn't see that. Let me guess. He said it was a bad decision by Biden. Let me guess what he said. I'm going to guess he was negative, that he said something negative about it. But I don't see anything on his X account, so maybe he said something somewhere else. Oh, no. He said, Donald Trump Jr. said the military-industrial complex seems to want to make sure they get World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace and save lives. Gotta lock in those trillions. Life be damned, imbeciles. That is from Donald Trump Jr. That's what he said. By the way, thanks so much, Jocelyn. That's very generous of you, Jocelyn. Thank you. Jocelyn says, do you think Israel will pick up their airstrikes now that Biden opened up Ukraine to send long-range missiles further into Russia? You're saying, will this in itself affect what Israel does? I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert on this stuff. Off the top of my head, it would seem like that Israel is... my guess is that Israel is in constant direct contact with the U.S. government. So they're going to be basing their policy on what the Biden administration and the incoming Trump administration says to them directly, rather than reading this as some kind of tea leaf. I don't think Israel needs to read into U.S. policy on other countries to get information about U.S. thoughts on Israel, because I think there's lots of U.S.-Israeli communication, and both the Biden administration and Trump administration, I'm sure, are letting Israel know their thoughts directly on Israeli policy. That's my answer. So I don't think this in itself will affect Israeli policy. That's what I was trying to say. That's my personal view. But it will be interesting to see if Israeli policy changes, how Israel is conducting itself changes under the Trump administration. It is an interesting question. But that's a bit of a different topic right now. So we're not going to get into that right now, although I'm sure we'll get into that on other streams. Hey, thank you so much, Jocelyn. That is very, very generous of you. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate the question, Jocelyn. Also, thanks to YOLO Swaggins. YOLO Swaggins thinks Putin can't use nuclear weapons because he's not got the ability to shoot down all of NATO's. Thank you also, Richard Foley, for your support, and Ken Lance for your support. Shout out to our moderators as well. Over there on YouTube right now, we have Beth Mythical moderating. We have Ruth Krafasi is there. Thank you. We have Sabrina. Over there on Twitch, we have Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, McBritches. Thanks, Psyops, for your support on Twitch, and Device X for subscribing on Twitch. Also, thanks to Linda Belk and Larry for moderating for us over on X, and also thanks to our Facebook moderators like Kay Lowry Body is over there, Ronald Egnor, Margaret Riley, Beth Shepard. Thanks so much. D. Schmidt thinks this would lead clearly to an escalation. Jessica Marie Villalobos says maybe Biden and Trump set this up to play good cop, bad cop for when Trump gets in office. Trump can be the good cop and Putin will de-escalate, comfortably assured that Trump saved the day. Don Messimer thinks Biden is trying to start a war before he leaves. Okay, let's get a little more update here. There's some more of this. We're going to talk more. Just a little more of this article I wanted to read for you. Again, President Biden has approved Ukraine for the first time being able to use long-range U.S. missiles, ATACMS, which I believe are the longest-range missiles that the U.S. has given. I think the ATACMS missiles are the longest-range missiles anyone has given Ukraine. The U.S. has now approved Ukraine using ATACMS long-range missiles on targets inside Russia, which they had not done before. Let me read a little more of this. Ukrainian president, and the Wall Street Journal is saying that U.S. officials are telling them this is a response by Biden in large part to Russia bringing in North Korean troops to help it in its fight against Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky said on X late last month that Putin is testing the West, NATO, and even South Korea, observing their response to North Korean forces joining his campaign. Zelensky said if the response is weak, we should expect the numbers of foreign soldiers on our soil to increase. Russia's capture of eastern Ukrainian territory has accelerated buoying spirits inside the Kremlin, whose leaders now feel they have an advantage in a war that is no longer a stalemate, says the Washington Post. The change in policy. the authorization, the allowing Ukraine to use these long-range U.S. missiles to attack targets in Russia follows months of resistance by the Biden administration about allowing Ukraine to use the ATACMS missiles to hit targets within Russia. Senior U.S. officials have repeatedly expressed private concern that Russia could retaliate by escalating inside Ukraine and around the world. In denying Ukraine's pleas to be able to fire ATACMS missiles inside Russia, administration officials have publicly said that the use of the weapon would have marginal, not that great utility on the battlefield. Pentagon officials, who were by far the most skeptical voice inside the administration, have argued that the benefits of allowing strikes in Russia would be limited because the Kremlin, anticipating a potential easing of the restraint, earlier this year pulled out most of its warplanes and other assets deeper into Russia and out of range of the ATACMS. As of September, 90% of Russian aircraft launching glide bombs into Ukraine were flying from airfields outside ATACMS range, Pentagon spokeswoman Sabrina Singh said at the time. So there's this question of like, how useful will these long-range missiles be? Russia has and could, if they want, do more, move stuff out of range. But if they want to carry on, obviously, actions near the Ukraine border, they would have to have resources near the border. But again, this is interesting. Senior U.S. officials have repeatedly expressed private concern that Russia could retaliate by escalating inside Ukraine and around the world. Now, I'm not sure given the seemingly endless litany of missile and drone attacks on various targets, including civilian targets, inside Ukraine. I'm not sure what the escalation inside Ukraine would be, unless you're talking about him using like nuclear weapons or something. But around the world, I mean, could he try to launch some operation targeting U.S. resources, U.S. troops somewhere? I don't know. But there's a worry that you could have retaliation, obviously, for these kind of strikes. Let's see here. Kim Carter says, has Putin responded? No, I have not heard a quote from Putin on this at this point. It is the middle of the night Russia time, I believe. Yeah, he has said stuff before, Fred Flintstone mentions. We talked about that in the Reuters article. The Reuters article said, President Putin said in September that the West would be fighting Russia directly if it allowed Ukraine to strike Russian territory with Western-made long-range missiles. A move, he said, would alter the nature and scope of the conflict. But it's not clear, is that just bluster or does he really mean it? I don't know. Hey, thank you to, that's from the Reuters article, by the way. Ukraine strikes on Russia with U.S. missiles could lead to world war, Russian lawmakers say. Thank you to Rick D for the gift membership. That's really nice of you. Thank you also, Peace to You, our member. Thank you to Short Time No See, who says the government preaches peace, apparently just a PR stunt. War is the business model. We foot the bill while politicians play chess with lives. Thank you also, Bebop and Rocksteady, who says whether you support this or not, chances of a world war and use of nukes has gone up by how much, who knows, but it's increased for sure. Thanks to our viewer, Adam Reed, for your support. Thanks to DJ for your support, who says, this is Biden's mic drop. Now is the time to support your president if you're an American. Believe it or not, DJ thinks Trump is making matters worse by calling Putin. Trump is not a savior either. Thanks Aaron S. and his wife Emma Skidoo for being a member. Bernie says, Elkelstein says Germany should deliver Taurus cruise missiles now. I believe some of these articles talk about other countries and how this might impact their policy. So we'll talk about that shortly. Ross Nixon says, we haven't had a world war for 79 years and we are happy to extend this if possible. I'm LV thinks it's crazy how many people think Putin will respond. Well, don't that beat all says, people sure are scared. That's what Putin likes to see. Old Mordim says it's like when we sent tanks, it allowed other nations to supply tanks. Abstruse enigma, I have not heard. There was one outlet that was claiming that France and the UK had agreed to lessen their restrictions on their missiles too after this, but I have seen a lot of questions raised about that report. So there's not really great sourcing on that report right now, although it could happen. Thanks to Adam Reed for your support. New Mannix thinks the bear isn't sleeping. Let me show you a bit more of this analysis here from the Post. Let's see here. Again, the authorization for the Biden administration's authorization of Ukraine's use of these ATACMS long-range missiles on targets inside Russian territory follows repeated requests by Ukraine. Also, it said, hold on, I skipped something here. It talks about Putin in here too. Hold on. Let me go back up a bit. The policy change comes at a time of heightened political sensitivity as Biden seeks to alter Ukraine's fortunes before Trump takes office, and as North Korean troops, thousands of them, have bolstered Russia's advantage on the battlefield. Ukraine's control of Russian territory has taken on intense significance as both sides scramble for an advantage ahead of potential talks when Trump takes power. People close to the Kremlin say that Putin is unwilling to start any negotiations while Ukrainians are on Russian soil. That's very interesting. The Biden administration is focused on helping Ukraine preserve its bargaining leverage there as long as possible. Remember, Ukraine controls some territory in Russia since a few months ago. As we saw on the deep state map here, there's Ukraine. And here is Kursk region here. Maybe I can get rid of these forces here. Hold on. How do I get rid of these? The red diamonds are the forces. So let me temporarily take those off. Hide all. Okay. So what you can see here on this deep state map is, if you go and zoom in here, you can see that Ukraine controls. Is this border off? Let's see here. Where is Sudza? Hold on. Things off a little bit on this. Yeah, you know what's going on here is something's a little messed up here. What is this thing? See, Sudza is actually in Russia. So why is it on this side of the border? Sudza is a Russian town in Kursk region. Unless there's a Sudza, Ukraine. Yeah, it almost seems like something is off on, like the border is not imposed correctly on the map. Or maybe maybe I'm reading this wrong. But I think you know what it is? This line is the country line. The purple line is the country border. It's a little confusing because you have that black dotted line. Ignore the black dotted line, please. What I want you to see here is this purple line is the line between Ukraine and Russia, and this blue area is the area, you can see it says about 228 miles squared, square miles. That is territory that Ukraine forces have taken from Russia in the last 3 months. And what the article is saying is that this Russian territory gives Ukraine something to bargain with in peace talks. They can say, hey, give us some of our land back, or we're not going to give you your land back. So that's why the article is saying here, Ukraine's control of Russian territory has taken on intense significance as both sides scramble for advantage ahead of potential talks. People close to the Kremlin say that Putin is unwilling to start any negotiations while Ukrainians are on Russian soil. The Biden administration is focused on helping Ukraine preserve its bargaining leverage there as long as possible. It's very interesting. Hold on a second here. Let me just do something real quick. Thanks, by the way, to Mark Natividad, who says, how will China back Russia? Is China the end game for America? I mean, there's articles. I'm not going to really, it's a little bit off topic. So you can certainly find articles written about how China is helping Russia in its conflict, for example, by supplying it with things. Whether China's support for Russia changes in the future, I don't know. But I think, hopefully you understand. I think I want to put that topic to the side because China's support for Russia is a bit off topic here. I don't want to go down that road because we'll lose focus. So maybe in a future stream we can talk about it. It's a very interesting topic. Thank you also, Mark. Thank you, Mark Natividad. Thank you, Punished Foxo, for your support, who thinks the warnings from Russia of nuclear war are always empty threats. Every line they've said has been crossed, and all they can do is wag their finger. Thanks also, Jocelyn, our member. Will Putin ask for more North Korean soldiers? Well, one thing the article suggests that a reason for, this article we've been reading suggests that a reason the Biden administration could be doing this is to deter North Korea from sending more troops and to deter Russia from bringing more North Korean troops in. Kim Carter says, not going to lie, this makes me nervous. The New Irish thinks Ukraine is not winning the war of attrition, so the U.S. had to allow this to happen. Aaron Weirdo says, Russia always threatening to use nukes reminds me of this kid I knew who said his dad was in the military and would beat me up. Rex says, I remember some people in this chat said Russia would chase those Ukrainian soldiers out of Kursk in 2 weeks. Well, here we are. Oh, on the map there. You know what? One of our viewers said something about the map. What is it here? Yes, thank you. I was so confused. It was railways on the deep state map here, which you can find at Deep State Map, which I like. I was seeing those. Thank you. That was really confusing me. I was seeing those hashed lines. The line made up of hashes, the broken lines. So I got rid of those. So yes, the purple is the line between Russia and Ukraine, and that blue area is the area of Kursk, which Ukraine has taken the last few months, in which Russia now has apparently around 50,000 troops, including 10,000 North Korean troops ready to make a big push to take that land back. One of our viewers said, I think dark mode showed the borders better. Oh, that is a little better. You're right. Although it shows the borders better, but it's kind of dark in the other way. It's better and worse. The satellite view is not really working well today on that map for some reason. That's why I did this one. Mr. Bigley Uncredible thinks this decision should have been made in the first months of the war. Sandra Lee Hart says, I hope this does not escalate. Again, ATACMS reached 190 miles. I want to just finish some stuff in that article. It's a good article, which is why I've been reading it, but and get some other perspectives here. But let me just show you some more from this article about this. Again, we are covering the U.S. Biden has changed his mind and has given Ukraine their long-sought permission to use U.S. long-range ATACMS missiles against targets in Russia. The first targets, supposedly, according to one U.S. official, are going to be in the Kursk region. Where is it here? The initial Ukrainian effort is expected to focus on and around the Kursk region, though it could expand, according to one official and another person familiar with the matter. Let me just go down here a little further. Oh, I think Zelensky might have said something about this today, by the way. I want to show you that. He made a statement, but there's something. Sorry, I'm not finding. One of the articles will talk about the quote I'm looking for. Let me just go back to this. Okay. Right. Where is it here? Here it is. U.S. and Ukrainian officials believe that the presence of North Korean troops in Russia will free Russian forces to focus on gaining ground elsewhere, as well as push the front lines forward in Kursk, where Ukraine captured territory in August, providing a morale boost. Ukraine captured territory in Kursk in August, which did provide a morale boost to Ukrainians who have been sapped by nearly 3 years of war. North Korea's involvement has rattled Washington and Washington's allies, who are wary of the assistance that Putin might offer Kim in return. U.S. officials have said their concerns about Russian escalation in response to Western military aid have diminished over time as one weapon system after another has been provided to Ukraine without significant retaliation in response by Russia. Ukraine is already using U.S. equipment inside Kursk, Russia, to attack Russian forces. But Putin has been clear. Putin has been explicit that he considers the use of ATACMS a red line. In September, Putin declared that a strike by ATACMS missiles into Russian territory, which would probably involve U.S. targeting assistance, changes the very essence, the nature of the conflict, warning that his country would retaliate. Later in September, Putin revised Russia's nuclear doctrine in what was interpreted as a veiled threat against the use of U.S.-provided long-range weapons on Russian soil. Administration officials who have previously been skeptical of allowing Ukraine to use U.S. long-range weapons for strikes in Russia have said that given the limited number of ATACMS missiles that Ukraine has, given the limited number of the advanced missiles, the blowback by Russia may not be worth the potential battlefield advantage. But with North Korea's increasing involvement in the effort, U.S. calculus appears to have shifted. And again, I don't know if part of the shift is did Biden change his mind because North Korea sent all these troops to Russia? Is it that? Is it because he's trying to help Ukraine out as much as possible before Trump comes in because he thinks Trump's going to give Ukraine less assistance? Is it some combination of these? Something else? I don't know. Officials characterize the decision as a limited evolution rather than a new chapter in the war. The Post says that the authorization for the use of ATACMS on targets within Russian territory follows repeated requests by Ukraine. Also note that Secretary of State Blinken said, "We have adapted and adjusted to the needs of Ukraine as the battlefield changes, as what Russia is doing changes, as new elements are introduced, for example, the North Korean forces." Blinken said, "I can tell you we will continue to adapt and adjust again to make sure that Ukraine is on the strongest possible position to deal with this aggression." John Kirby, White House spokesman, said last month, if North Korean forces do deploy to fight against Ukraine, they are fair game. Trump is expected to be far more skeptical of U.S. aid for Ukraine than Biden has been, and he has expressed eagerness to broker a peace deal between Moscow and Russia. Putin and Trump spoke in a call after the election, according to people familiar with the matter. In that call, several people said Trump warned the Russian leader not to escalate in Ukraine and said he wanted to discuss the resolution of the war soon. The Kremlin denied that the call took place. So, I mean, could we see these ATACMS long-range missiles used on North Korean forces? All of Kursk, if my calculations are right on the map, all of Kursk region, where there's thousands of these North Korean forces, that is within range of this ATACMS missile. So could we see them used on North Korean forces? Rex says, of course, the North Korean soldiers are fair game. Chalky on X thinks it's a blatant provocation. R Factor NYC says, about time, this is long overdue. Proxy Lay says, another Russian red line. Russia has been destroying countless Ukrainian hospitals, houses, kindergartens since the start. Robert Rial II says, the nature of this conflict was changed when Russia decided to bring another country's army in to help them fight this war. An army that already has major powers lined up at its border in case they play silly games. Diane Allworth says, Putin deciding that this is the red line is humorous. She says he crossed it already. I think she's saying that his red lines have been crossed already. Rex says, another red line. Our viewer Yukon Pardoit says North Korea was the game changer. Jocelyn thinks North Korean soldiers are so unprepared for Ukrainian soldiers. Fred Flintstones thinks we are playing the silly games now. Blue Ridger says peace deal more like appeasement deal. By the way, thanks to Bebop and Rocksteady, who says whoever can broker peace and end this war deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. Thanks also to Adam Reed. Will RU retaliate with an EMP in Kursk? I'm no expert, but EMP is just would be it'd be like an extremely provocative action. That's like a last resort kind of thing. So we don't, actions like firing nuclear weapons and doing EMPs are about as big as you can get. So I haven't heard any kind of reporting suggesting an EMP is on the table. By the way, for those, for some background here, I don't want to get off onto EMP land right now. But as Wikipedia says, an EMP is a brief burst of electromagnetic energy. The electromagnetic interference can disrupt communications and damage electronic equipment. In modern warfare, weapons delivering a high-energy EMP are designed to disrupt communications equipment. The computers need to operate modern warplanes or even put the entire electrical network of a target country out of commission. Thank you, Adam Reed, for your support. But look, there is this question. If Russia is going to escalate, as I said, look at everything Russia has done in Ukraine for over 2 years now. And all of the targets Russia has attacked, including many civilian targets with missiles, with drones. What does that leave for escalation? Right? So what would escalation look like? Using nuclear weapons, targeting U.S. troops somewhere? I don't know. But I don't know that there's much more they can do conventionally against Ukraine that they wouldn't have already done. They probably would have done it already. Thanks so much to John DFW. Thanks, John, for your support. I appreciate it, John DFW. John thinks if Democrats cared a quarter as much about our border as they did about Ukraine's, they would have won the election. Thank you to Jenny W. for the gift memberships. That's really nice of you, Jenny W. Thanks to Shark for the gift memberships. Thanks to Shark. If somebody gives you a gift membership or a gift subscription, please thank them. Thank you to Cartoon Maps for your support. Thank you, Peace Shall Overcome, who says, forget the ATACMS. Vlad needs to end his invasion. Thanks so much also to Jocelyn, who gave 50 people gift memberships. That's incredibly generous of you, Jocelyn. Wow. Thank you, Jocelyn. And thanks also to Bebop and Rocksteady. And High Vibes for All. And Chopomatic. Chopomatic thinks that the military-industrial complex is terrified of losing power for the first time in decades, so it's trying to hand Trump a war he can't stop with this reckless move. Thank you, High Vibes, who says Biden is helping Ukraine keep Russian territory so they'll have something to bargain with when Trump takes over. MG suggests Russia could use chemical weapons. That would be a huge deal, obviously, as well. Thank you, MG. What is the death toll from the war? Bebop and Rocksteady said, I don't know if I can quickly find it for you. There's no exact number. There's like estimates. I don't want to spend 10 minutes researching it. I don't know if I can find a quick answer for you. Um, yeah, I don't have like a ready number I can give you here. I mean, there's an article from the Wall Street Journal in September, which said that earlier in the year, there was a Ukrainian estimate that said there were 80,000 dead Ukrainian troops and 400,000 wounded, and that Russian casualties were estimated by Western intelligence earlier this year as dead as much as 200,000 and wounded around 400,000. But again, these are just numbers from an article in September. So that's just a very rough. I mean, I would just Google it and look up different recent articles, and you can probably find different estimates. Okay. It's a lot, clearly. Tom Smith says Institute for the Study of War has an estimated death toll. Again, I don't want to take too much time researching this thing. It's a little bit off topic. But if I can find it quickly, I'll tell you. I can't find it quickly. So you can send it to me. If somebody finds it, you can message me with it. I got to read some more of your messages too. Hold on a second here. Oh, there's a map on ISW I can show you as well. It's actually something to keep an eye on. Hang on. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any breaking news the last few minutes. Jason Santoro our viewer thinks this is a dangerous move by Biden. Old McDonald thinks Trump approved of this specific thing. I'm not sure of that. I don't know that that's the case. And I'm not aware of a statement that Trump has made on this specific policy change yet. My guess is that it won't be a statement in support of Biden, what he's doing. My guess is that he'll say that Biden's doing something wrong. But I'll let you know if I hear anything. Michael Lauzon, our viewer, thinks Ukraine will use these missiles on airfields and military, so Russia will have to move their planes further into Russia, making them unable to carry a full load of bombs. That's what Michael thinks. Norman Zolkos says, I think Trump will call Zelensky and tell him not to use these missiles. I mean, Trump can you think now he'll call him? But Trump, when he's president, can change the policy if he wants. Bald Eagle thinks the approval of Ukraine using these missiles on Russian territory is a giant middle finger to Trump right before Trump gets to office. That's what our viewer Bald Eagle said. All right, let me show you some more about this. Here, let me just finish reading this article. We'll talk about some other stuff too, but this This Washington Post article is very good, and it has some good details in it, so I want to just finish it. Again, we're talking about Biden approving Ukraine's use for the first time of these long-range U.S. ATACMS missiles on targets inside Russia. They have not been allowed to use these missiles on targets inside Russia. They could use them on Russian forces who had invaded Ukraine, but they couldn't use these missiles to hit targets inside Russia. If you look here, it says, Biden, though he has authorized tens of billions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine, has been reluctant to grant Ukraine advanced U.S. weapons. He hesitated about sending the Patriot air defense system, then gave in. A similar policy evolution saw the U.S. initially refuse to give Ukraine US-made Abrams tanks and F-16 fighter jets, which they eventually agreed to. The White House in May reversed a broad ban on Ukraine using U.S. military assistance to strike within Russia after the Kremlin took advantage of the restriction by concentrating its forces in border regions and attacking across the frontier with relative impunity. When Biden finally authorized the giving of Ukraine longer-range ATACMS missiles earlier this year, he limited their use to within Ukraine's own territory, enabling them to strike Russian forces on the Crimean Peninsula, but not to hit within Russia itself. The White House had maintained its ban on ATACMS strikes in Russia, in part because of concerns that Russia would respond with force against U.S. and allies' interests elsewhere. That's very interesting. That could include the use of even more devastating weapons inside Ukraine, an increase in sabotage attacks in Europe and the United States, or intensified support for Iran and the Houthi rebels in Yemen, who have snarled global shipping, two other senior officials said in September. If you're wondering what could Russian retaliation look like, there's three possibilities right there. Russia could respond with force against U.S. and allies' interests elsewhere. That could include the use of even more devastating weapons inside Ukraine, an increase in sabotage attacks in Europe and the United States, or intensified support for Iran and the Houthi rebels in Yemen, who have snarled global shipping, two other senior administration officials said in September. Though this policy reversal gives Ukraine a significant new tool, Biden administration officials note that Ukraine has very limited stocks of ATACMS missiles. Russia has shown that it has a significant shoot-down capability, and the Pentagon, whose own missile supply is dwindling, says it does not have many more to give without affecting U.S. readiness. Defenders of Biden's approach say he has been managing risks of escalation amid periods in which U.S. intelligence assessments have offered real warnings about the possibility of Putin using a nuclear weapon against Ukraine. Again, that is always a possibility that Russia could escalate by using some sort of nuclear weapon, maybe a smaller one in Ukraine. But the halting provision of advanced weapons and other cautious policies have caused frustration in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials have said when troops finally receive the weapons or are free to use them, the military returns are often diminished because conditions on the battlefield have changed, leading to preventable casualties and setbacks, according to soldiers and commanders on the ground. Interesting. Interesting. What do you think? Give me a shout on X at Lookner. The Guardian 1, thanks for your support, who says, just wait for how this story ends. You, the righteous, will love it. I don't know what the Guardian 1 thinks is going to happen. Thanks to Real Raw Blue News, our new member. Kyle Style, thanks for being a member, who says, if you think Trump will stand up to Putin, LOL. Thanks, beam me up. Why did Russia invade Ukraine? Well, I mean, I don't really want to get into that topic now. You can talk about what Russia claims and what most of the rest of the world claims. Those are going to be two very different versions. So I don't really want to get into that at this moment. That's a bit off topic. Thank you, beam me up, though. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. Until it broke up. No, wit's end, I don't have any live shots of Ukraine right now, or Russia, that I can show you. If I did, I would, but I don't. Let's see here. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. See, this is... Ukraine, this headline's not a great headline either, because Ukraine was already allowed to use U.S. arms to strike inside Russia. What they're being allowed to do is to use these long-range missiles, these ATACMS missiles. What are the capabilities of the ATACMS? Good question. They have 190 mile an hour range. The Washington Post says ATACMS, it's a supersonic guided missile system that can be fitted with either cluster munitions or conventional warheads with a maximum range of about 190 miles. Ukraine has for months sought permission to use the powerful missiles against Russian territory, arguing the weapons would enable its strapped forces to strike deep in the country and hit targets that would degrade the Kremlin's war machine. You can actually see here. Hang on. One moment here. There's an article on Wikipedia about it. There's one right there. That's an ATACMS launch right there. That's from a U.S. Army photo. It is 13 feet long and 24 inches in diameter. The longest range variants can fly up to 190 miles. It's a supersonic tactical ballistic missile. Oh, one of our viewers mentioned the cost. What does Wikipedia say about that? It says unit cost. I don't know what unit means. Is that like the total cost, including development and everything, and manning them? I don't know. I mean, there's a number for unit cost here, but I'm not sure what that exactly refers to. There's 1.7 million and then 820,000. That could include the development and the staffing and everything. I'm not sure. And the equipment needed to launch it and all that stuff. I'm not sure. Thank you to High Vibes for All, who says Ukraine needs to take out the Crimean Bridge. Thanks for your support. All right, we want to take some more of your comments. Hey, thanks to Janice McConnell for your support. Show you some other reporting about this. JPAV says that's a lot of taxpayer money. Can they be air-launched? One of our viewers said. According to this Wikipedia, they can be fired from a tracked rocket launch system or a wheeled system. That would suggest they are launched from the ground, if that's correct. Does the military have a site about ATACMS? Let's see. I don't know if there was one on like an Army page. I'm not going to worry about it right now. There is a map of objects from Russia in range of ATACMS. I don't know if I have access to such a map. I mean, maybe a newspaper posted it, but it's got to be something I have the rights to show. I haven't seen one. Let me just see. Let me just check something here. Maybe I have access to something somewhere. By the way, there was a big missile attack last night by Russia on Ukraine. The first big missile attack like that in a couple months. We'll talk about that too. Taco Conch thinks that Biden is doing his best to start a world conflict before Trump takes over. Nidwentu says take 50 miles off that range. The launchers aren't going to the front line. One of our viewers said Putin motorcade seen rushing to Kremlin. That kind of post is on social media all the time. I see those posts all the time. Hey, look, it's a video of the motorcade rushing to the Kremlin. And it's pretty much never from a reliable news outlet. And I can't remember the last time one of those actually got posted where it actually was followed by something important. If it's even true. All right, let's get some other reporting about this. Let's see what AP has to say in addition to this. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just kind of jump through and pick some things out for you. President Biden has authorized Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied long-range missiles, ATACMS missiles, to strike deeper inside Russia. Easing limitations on the weapons as Russia deploys thousands of North Korean troops to reinforce its war, according to a U.S. official and 3 other people familiar with the matter. The decision allows Ukraine to use the Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, for attacks further inside Russia. I mean, they're being allowed to use them inside Russia for the first time. This decision comes as President Putin positions North Korean troops along Ukraine's northern border to try to reclaim hundreds of miles of territory seized by Ukrainian forces in Kursk. Biden's move also follows the presidential election victory of Trump, who said he would bring about a swift end to the war and raised uncertainty about whether his administration would continue the U.S.'s vital military support for Ukraine. So, okay, yeah, this is the quote I was looking for here from Zelensky. Ukrainian President Zelensky's reaction today was notably restrained. Strikes are not made with words, he said during his nightly video address. Such things are not announced. The missiles will speak for themselves. And I believe I saw some other reporting suggesting that something he was talking about there is saying like, well, you need to give us more of these missiles. It's one thing for you to say we can use them against Russia, but if you don't actually give us more missiles, there's only so much we can do. So I believe that is him suggesting that they need to actually get some more of these missiles. The other article from the Washington Post said they had a limited number of them, small number of them. Zelensky and his Western supporters have been pressing Biden for months to allow Ukraine to strike military targets deeper inside Russia with Western-supplied missiles, saying the U.S. ban had made it impossible for Ukraine to try to stop Russian attacks on its cities and electrical grids. And then, for example, these are some of the attacks that Russia carries out. Just today, Russia attacked a 9-story building that killed at least 8 people in the northern city of Sumy, Ukraine. Also, Russia launched a massive drone and missile attack overnight, the largest in recent months, targeting any energy infrastructure and killing civilians. The attacks came as fears are mounting about Moscow's intentions to devastate Ukraine's power generation capacity before the winter. And then a little summary of the debate here. Some supporters have argued that the limitation on using ATACMS and other U.S. constraints could cost Ukraine the war. The debate has become a source of disagreement among Ukraine's NATO allies. Biden had remained opposed to letting Ukraine use ATACMS in Russian territory, determined to hold the line against any escalation he felt could draw the U.S. and other NATO members into direct conflict with nuclear-armed Russia. AP says the longer-range missiles are likely to be used in response to North Korea's decision to support Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The overall supply of ATACMS missiles in Ukraine is short, so U.S. officials in the past have questioned whether that small amount of ATACMS missiles could give Ukraine enough to make a difference. Some supporters of Ukraine say even a few long-range strikes deeper inside Russia would force the Russian military to change deployments and expend more of its resources. What do you guys think? CRT says Russia hasn't done anything to us yet. They are all talk. Longy Raider says, send Ukraine everything. Neil Johnson says, the reason Russia does not just take Ukraine out, it is trying to avoid a larger escalation with UN and US. If they are pushed too far, they will respond. Danny G thinks Ukraine does not have the manpower to continue this fight. Michelle Batten says, I hope Russia never does anything to us. Simon B. Puck wonders if Russia could carry out cyber attacks. Sandy, I don't think they are being limited to being used in the Kursk area. It's a little confusing whether there are limits on these missiles being used in Russia. The article in the Washington Post said they would be used for limited strikes inside Russia, but it's not exactly clear if there's been strict limits put upon them. That I'm not sure of. Drop Wax says, Putin doesn't care about being or looking like the bad guy at this point. LOL, employing North Koreans. Some of you were asking about Germany and also missiles from Germany, I believe Taurus missiles. I want to look that up. Also, where did I saw something talk about whether this would impact UK and France limitations. Let's see if I can get you something on that. Yeah, so there's interesting. The New York Times, in their article about this today, they said that the British and French have given Ukraine a limited number of long-range missiles, Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles, which have a range of about 155 miles, which is less than the 190 miles of the ATACMS missiles. And the New York Times said that UK and France have been reluctant to let Ukraine use their missiles on Russian soil until Biden agreed to allow the Ukrainians to do that with ATACMS. So now that Biden has agreed to let Ukraine use these ATACMS missiles on Russian targets in Russian territory, it's possible that the Ukraine and France will allow their long-range missiles to be used on Russian territory as well. So that could be a significant impact of this as well. Also, in terms of possible responses by Russia to this, the New York Times reported that there was a recent U.S. intelligence assessment that said that Putin could retaliate against the U.S. and its European allies. And those retaliations could involve things like acts of arson and sabotage targeting facilities in Europe, and also attacks on U.S. and European military bases. So, of course, there's this big question of, once Ukraine starts using these American missiles and they land inside Russian territory, are we going to see some kind of significant response from Russia? That I can't tell you. We'll find out soon enough. Hang on a moment here. All right, give me a shout. Let me know your thoughts. At Lookner on X. Our viewer, Champ, thinks it's a scary development. Human, our viewer, thinks Putin wants Ukraine because there is so much grain there to export. And it would be a buffer zone between the West and Russia. That's what Human, our viewer, said. Oregon guy says war is not the answer. Warhawk Biden is going to get more people killed by this escalation. Is he going to put U.S. boots on the ground next? That's what Oregon guy said. All right, let me check a couple things here. By the way, let me show you something about what happened last night. If I can here. Hold on, let me see something here. To stop it at 15 to all right, I'm going to show you something about what happened last night. Sorry, because we haven't done this yet. There was a big attack last night by Russia on Ukraine, the biggest missile attack in months. They had been mostly using drones the last couple months. You can see here it says Russia pounds Ukraine power grid in massive airstrike. This was last night. Reuters says Russia unleashed its largest airstrike on Ukraine in almost 3 months on Sunday, launching 120 missiles and 90 drones. It was actually today. It was like overnight. Launching 120 missiles and 90 drones that killed at least 7 people and caused severe damage to the power system. Ukrainians had been bracing for weeks for a renewed Russian attack on an already hobbled energy system, fearing long winter blackouts and mounting psychological pressure almost 1,000 days after Russia launched its full-scale invasion. Well, it's almost 3 years, getting close to 3 years. These strikes, which caused numerous power cuts, came at a time when the impending U.S. presidency of Donald Trump, who has pledged to end the war without saying how, has raised the prospect of a push for negotiations. The extent of the damage was hard to assess. After repeated Russian attacks on the power grid, officials reveal little detailed information about the outcome of strikes and the state of the network because they don't want to give Russia information about it. Officials confirmed damage to critical infrastructure or power cuts in regions from Volyn, Rivne, Lviv in the west to Dnipropetrovsk, and Zaporizhia in the southeast. Let me show you. I have a video about this attack last night. Let me show you that real quick. This is from Reuters. It's from the same article. Let me put this on the screen here for you. What I need to do is just do this, and I need to make sure about something. Let's check this out. This is this video from Reuters about what happened last night.
Unleashed the largest wave of Russia unleashed the largest wave of airstrikes on Ukraine in almost 3 months in the early hours of Sunday morning. Ukrainian officials said 120 missiles and 90 drones were deployed in a sweeping overnight attack that targeted critical infrastructure.
Hold on. Give me 1 sec here. Hold on.
This footage shows missiles being shot down over the capital, Kyiv. Only hours later, emergency services could be seen carefully extracting the remnants of a missile that bypassed air defences from the top of a residential building. The attack has caused severe damage to Ukraine's power system, the country's largest private energy provider said, and triggered emergency power cuts in numerous regions. Ukrainians have for weeks been bracing for such an attack, expected to cause long blackouts and ramp up psychological pressure just as winter sets in. What's more is that the latest wave comes as the war approaches this week's 1,000th day since Russia's full-scale invasion. The latest onslaught piles more pressure on Ukraine as Moscow's troops notch up their fastest battlefield gains in the east since 2022. The Russian effort to seize the entire industrial Donbas region comes despite troops taking heavy losses, according to Kiev and the West. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said the strikes appeared to be Moscow's true response to leaders interacting with President Vladimir Putin. It was an apparent swipe at German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who called the Russian leader on Friday for the first time since late 2022. Although Scholz urged Putin to pull his troops out of Ukraine, where they occupy a fifth of the country. The strikes also come just 10 days after Donald Trump won the US presidential election and pledged to end the war. Although Trump has not revealed how he would end the conflict, it has raised the prospect of a looming push to hold negotiations.
I think German leader Scholz says something like, didn't he say something like that Putin still wants to take over Ukraine completely or something? Let me see if I can find this for you. Where is it? Maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought I read that somewhere. I definitely read it somewhere. But yes. Hold on a second. I have it here. Yes, look, right here. So Germany's Scholz defends call to Putin ahead of snap elections. This is from Reuters, and this is from it's an article from today. The German chancellor said his conversation with Putin on Friday has given no indication of a shift in the Russian president's thinking on the war in Ukraine. But he still defended his much criticized decision to phone Putin. This was their first direct communication in almost 2 years, 3 months before snap elections in Germany, in which the wildly unpopular chancellor faces a shift challenge from populists of left and right who are demanding a resumption of diplomacy. Scholz told reporters the conversation was very detailed, but contributed to a recognition that little has changed in Putin's views of the war, and that's not good news. Michael Anthony thinks that is not good news. Heinz Stark thinks Scholz is pretty much gone since the government in Germany fell apart last week. Why shouldn't he phone Putin? Well, the article says critics, including Ukrainian President Zelensky, said Scholz's call to Putin was a breach of Western solidarity for the sake of domestic political advantage. By the way, thanks to Sandor M for your support. I really appreciate it, Sandor M. Thanks also to Jacko24. What could Ukraine hit if they launched from deep in Kursk region? So, I mean, this is a good question. I don't specifically know. Ukraine says that this will be valuable. They believe there are military targets they can hit. I mean, I believe that all of Kursk is within range. So remember, Russia is reportedly has assembled this like 50,000 troop force, including 10,000 North Koreans, to try to take back the part of the Kursk region, which Ukraine now controls, the Kursk region of Russia. All of Kursk region, I believe, is in, we did this before. I mean, that's 200 miles right there. If the range is 190 miles, that would mean that all of Kursk region is in range. So, I mean, one target would be, within range, would be the Russian forces that are getting ready to try to kick the Ukrainian forces out of Kursk, Russia. But I don't know specifics about other targets in other areas that they think would be valuable. It's a good question. I'd like to know more about that. But this is something that they've been asking for months. Bernie Ecclestone thinks they will hit military airports and weapons storages. Moscow's farther away. Moscow's over 200 miles away. They can't hit Moscow with I think it's like almost 300 miles. We looked at it before, but they can't. That won't let them hit Moscow. I mean, roughly speaking, Moscow is over 300 miles from the border there. Yeah, these are 190 miles. Thanks to Crypto King for your support, who says Biden is trying to go out with a bang, very dangerous. Thanks Mama of 6 for your support, who says, is Biden really in charge? Thank you Native XD for being a member. Thanks Tim747, who thinks Biden is playing with fire. Thanks High Vibes for All. Postmodern says, could they move the ATACMS inside the Kursk battle zone in order to achieve longer range inside Russia? Good question. I don't know if that would make those missiles vulnerable or the launchers vulnerable in some way. Here, let me just get people. We've been covering this for a little bit, but I know some people come in and out of the stream, so I want to get you a little bit more of a just kind of go over, recap what we've been talking about. Yeah, Ukraine has used ATACMS missiles, but only on targets within Ukraine, like where Russia has invaded Ukraine. They've not been in Crimean Peninsula, for example. Crimea is part of Ukraine that Russia took over in actually I think around 2014 or so, 2014, 2015. Where is the map here, my deep state map that I've been using? Here, deep state map. Very good, a good map I like to use for Ukraine stuff. So there's Ukraine. Crimea is down here. The Crimean Peninsula. And they have been using that. They've been using ATACMS to attack, for example, in Crimea. Which Russia, I believe, considers this Russian territory, but most of the world considers it Russian occupied territory. I'm going to throw a link to this map again into the chat because people might want to use this map themselves. It's called the Deep State Map. You know what I'll ask you? I asked you before if Putin would retaliate, would escalate. Now I'm going to ask you, will Putin escalate retaliate against U.S. forces somewhere, against U.S. forces somewhere, against U.S. forces or interests. So will Putin somehow retaliate against some sort of U.S. forces, U.S. related target? Not a U.S. ally, I mean a U.S. target. Once Ukraine starts using these ATACMS missiles on targets inside Russia. That's what I'm going to ask you right now and see what you have to say about it. Because they're going to use them. Let's see what you guys have to say. Okay, over on YouTube, we have it's about 50-50 on YouTube. How about on Twitch? Let's see what Twitch people say. Only 27% say yes. That would obviously be very provocative, potentially, if they do that, right? %28% or 29% say that on Twitch. The Left Lion thinks Putin's retaliation will be a cyber attack on the West and 300 missiles into Ukraine. Asthrun thinks Biden wants to poison the well before Trump can do any negotiation. Mr. Bigley Incredible says, I hope not. Let's hope not. I don't know how soon Ukraine will start using these ATACMS on targets within Russia. Could be very soon. I don't know. It hasn't been reported that they have yet. Solid Fox says, isn't bringing in North Korean troops an escalation? I'm LV thinks Twitch is smarter with this poll answer. Tal Uvian thinks Putin can't do anything. One of our viewers says Twitch often seems to be a bit more... Louis R. says the Twitch user base always seems to be a bit more measured. All right, thanks for voting. Yeah, let me just go over this for people who haven't been tuned in. Just a little summary here. The headline's not the greatest headline. It says Biden allows Ukraine to use U.S. arms to strike inside Russia. They already have been using U.S. arms inside Russia. For example, when they moved forces into Kursk, Russia in the last few months. But they're now being allowed to use this long-range missile, the ATACMS missile, to strike inside Russia. Reuters says Biden's administration has allowed Ukraine to use US-made weapons to strike deep into Russia, and a significant reversal of Washington's policy in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Ukraine plans to conduct its first long-range attacks in the coming days, these sources said. So Reuters says Ukraine plans to conduct its first long-range attacks in the coming days. The move comes 2 months before President-elect Trump takes office and follows months of pleas by Ukrainian President Zelensky to allow Ukraine's military to use U.S. weapons to hit Russian military targets far from its border. The change comes largely in response to Russia's deployment of North Korean ground troops to supplement its own forces, a development that has caused alarm in Washington and Ukraine, according to a couple of Reuters sources. There was no immediate response from the Kremlin. which has warned it would see a move to loosen the limits on Ukraine's use of U.S. weapons as a major escalation. One member of Russia's upper house in parliament said Washington's decision could lead to World War III. He said, the West has decided on such a level of escalation that it could end with the Ukrainian state could in complete ruins by morning. Ukraine's first deep strikes are likely to be carried out using ATACMS rockets, which have a range of up to 190 miles. While some U.S. officials have expressed skepticism that allowing long-range strikes will change the war's overall trajectory, the decision could help Ukraine at a moment when Russian forces are making gains and possibly could put Kyiv in a better negotiating position when and if ceasefire talks happen. Remember, the Washington Post said that a big reason for doing this was to help Ukraine keep its land that it has taken inside Russian territory to have as a bargaining chip in future talks. It is not clear if Trump will reverse Biden's decision on this when he takes office in about 2 months. Trump has long criticized the scale of U.S. and financial and military aid to Ukraine and has vowed to end the war quickly without explaining how. That's a good question. Will Trump reverse the decision? One of Trump's closest policy advisors, Rick Grinnell, criticized the decision, saying escalating the wars before he leaves office, he said of Biden. Interesting. Chi-Town Bear thinks, yes, he will. I'm going to ask you guys that question. We'll do one more poll. Will Trump reverse this decision? That's my question. Will Trump reverse the decision on allowing Ukraine to attack targets in Russian territory with long-range U.S. missiles? See what you guys say about this. Sea Turtle says, hopefully yes. Eric O'Neill says, that's a good question. I mean, it's only 2 months. Gulf War Vet, thanks for your service, says, I think Trump will reverse this decision on day one as he should. Devrai Mayar says, I support Biden, but it was a huge mistake allowing this to happen. Fester Geek says, Trump is a wild card, could go either way. Over there on YouTube, they say, "65% on YouTube say yes, Trump will reverse it. And on Twitch, 76% say Trump will reverse it. Interesting. A lot of you think Trump is going to reverse this decision in about 2 months. Or I guess he could do it after 2 months, after he's in office. Solid Fox says, of course he will. Sharking Lee says, before January, Ukraine should use every single U.S. missile they have. Sean TV, oh, thanks to Sean TV. Sean says Trump works for Putin, so yes. By the way, Sean made a couple donations. Sean also said, if you compare a map of territory Russia occupies with a map of oil gas deposits in Ukraine, they line up perfectly. Russia wants Ukraine's national resources, so Ukraine can't compete. That's what Sean thinks. Sean, thanks for your support. That's so nice of you. I appreciate that, Sean. Thank you. Pretty close there, about 67% on YouTube and 73% on Twitch think that Trump will reverse this decision. Just to show you a little more from this Reuters article, the U.S. believes more than 10,000 North Korean soldiers have been sent to eastern Russia, and that most of them have moved to the Kursk region and have begun to engage in combat operations. Russia is advancing at its fastest rate since 2022, despite taking heavy losses, and Ukraine said it had clashed with some of those North Korean troops deployed to Kursk. Stretched by personnel shortages, Ukrainian forces have lost some of the ground they captured in an August incursion into Kursk that Zelensky said could serve as a bargaining chip. Alex Plitsas, an expert at the Atlantic Council, said removing targeting restrictions will allow the Ukrainians to stop fighting with one hand tied behind their back. However, he said, like everything else, I believe history will say the decision came way too late. Just like the ATACMS, HIMARS, Bradley fighting vehicles, Abrams tanks, and F-16. They were all needed much sooner, said this expert. Despite Zelensky's pleas, the White House had been reluctant to allow U.S.-supplied weapons to be used to strike targets deep inside Russia for fear this could ratchet up the conflict. One Republican U.S. representative, Mike Turner, said Biden's decision was long overdue and that there were still too many restrictions on Ukraine. But he said this first step will put pressure on Putin as President Trump returns to the White House and works to end this war. Rick Speziali thinks this is way too late. What a waste. Glam Girl says things need to de-escalate. This can cause global catastrophe. I think I saw something earlier from, let's see. So George Barros, who is with the Institute for the Study of War, he is the Russia team and GeoInt team lead. So that's Institute for the Study of War is a really cool site. They do reporting and analysis about military conflicts around the world. You can find their site at understandingwar.org. Understandingwar.org. I'll be interested to see I'm sure they'll have some report on this in the next day or two. But George Barros, who's with Institute for the Study of War, he posted and said, reminder, there are hundreds of valid legal he posted a link to a map too. Reminder, there are hundreds of valid, legal, legitimate, and operationally consequential military targets in range of Ukrainian ATACMS. The Biden administration's shift to allow ATACMS use in Russia is a good thing, he said, but it must extend beyond the Kursk region. Oh, you know what? I'm going to let you guys, I'll post a link to this. The Institute for the Study of War and Critical Threats posted a map tool. I think one of our viewers was talking about this. And it says hundreds of Russian military objects are in range of ATACMS. This interactive tool allows users to inspect 225 known Russian military objects in Russia that are in range of Ukrainian ATACMS. Now, this is as of the end of August. Maybe some of these have been moved away from this region or might be moved away. But what you can see here is it's a map which shows you the range of the ATACMS missiles. It's it's this line right here. See? And it says Russian military and paramilitary objects in the range of the ATACMS. Russian air bases, Russian territory. I don't know why it says Russian territory. Russian occupied territory in range. Ukrainian control. All right. Anyways, I'm going to put this link to this in the chat, and then you guys can go look at this interactive map if you want. Looks interesting. Clicking on pins reveals information about the target, it says. So you can look at these different targets that they say are there. I'm going to post a link to this right now. You can go, this is the ISW range map, and you can go look at it yourself. I appreciate them letting me show it. ISW range map. All right, I just posted the link in the chat. Hopefully that works for you. Did it get posted there in YouTube? No? I'll post it in YouTube too. Somehow it didn't get posted there. I don't know if the deep state map got posted on YouTube either. I'll post the link to the deep state map too. This map that I've been using, that I use for Ukraine and Russia, shows different like force movements, and you can show different stuff on this map, but I will post the link to deep state map. Okay, I just posted that on YouTube. Captain Jerry Donnelly, I don't know how many of these missiles Ukraine has right now. I'm guessing that's operationally secret information. The Washington Post article, a couple of the articles have said they have a limited amount, but I don't know how many that is. Thank you so much, Captain Jerry Donnelly. So we'll have to see in the coming days what happens, how Ukraine uses these missiles inside Russia, and then what Russia does about it, if anything. How they're used, what kind of impact or they have or not, and how does Russia respond? Lucas Block says you could check weapon ranges on the deep state map on the buttons on the left and choose different weapon systems and then left click on the map. I didn't know that. Oh, weapons range. So there's a button on the bottom left that says weapons range. Okay, is ATACMS on here? All types. Patriot, Taurus, Storm Shadow. There's like the Russian, there's the British Storm. Well, I clicked on Storm Shadow. What happened to the range? Do I not have it turned on? I'm doing this wrong. Anyways, I'm not going to worry about this right now. But just so you know, you can turn the range on. Maybe I have to turn something else on to see it or something. I'm not sure. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but it has that capability on that map if you want to try it yourself. Click on the map? Oh, is this it? Hold on. Somebody said click on the map. Let's see. I think we may have figured it out. Okay, so we have deep state map, and we pick a weapon from bottom weapons range. So we could pick, where was Storm Shadow? Somewhere here. There's Storm Shadow. Then you click on the map. Storm Shadow. What does this tell you? Oh, is this like, this tells you how far in it can reach from where it's fired, I guess? That's what it is. See, it says Storm Shadow. So if it's fired from the middle, it can hit this range. I see. Okay. Interesting. So you can do that on Deep State Map as well. Thanks for letting me know. That's interesting. Let me just look at a couple other things here. The Wall Street Journal says Ukraine has been using drones for some deep strikes, but believes ATACMS would be more effective. It's a surface-to-surface missile. Now, the Wall Street Journal said some U.S. and Western officials told the Wall Street Journal. Some officials said the missiles are not likely to alter the conflict much because Russia can move most of its war material further away, and in many cases already did so. I don't have intelligence about what Russian targets are still within range of ATACMS and what they have moved and not moved and what kind of impact this will or will not have. Meanwhile, the Institute for the Study of War says there are hundreds of Russian military targets within ATACMS range. G. Kelly, thanks for your support. G. Kelly 91 says, at what point does Congress have a say on U.S. escalation in this conflict? That's a good question. I don't have a good answer for you on that as to Congress' role legally. Is there some sort of, I'm guessing there's some sort of legal justification where I'm sure there is, where the White House says we don't have to consult Congress on every kind of provision of weapons to allies. Yes, Congress approves aid, as one of our viewers said. But that's a good point. But does Congress have a say on whether, has Congress, in any of the bills that Congress has approved, has it said whether ATACMS could be used, or is it just not specific about that kind of thing? I don't know how that is. Because I think the question was something like, could Congress say, we don't want you to use this money to allow them to send them ATACMS that they can use on Russian territory? This is way out of my wheelhouse. I don't know. Good question, G. Kelly. There's actually a U.S. government website called Ukraine Oversight. And it says, since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Congress has appropriated or otherwise made available nearly $183 billion for OAR and the broader Ukraine response. You can go to ukraineoversight.gov if you want to read about this. Okay. Take a few more comments here. Eddie, our viewer, thinks this is World War III. There's no stopping what's coming. Putin warned about the use of long-range weapons. So Eddie is concerned that this is going to escalate. Firejack thinks the problem was Biden never saying anything. Should have just let it happen when they sent the ATACMS. Too much announcement of military actions or strategy. I am Jonathan. It says, could this help bring an end to the war in Ukraine? Well, I don't see a lot of military analysts saying this is going to be like a total game changer. So, but who knows what happens when Trump takes over? And if that changes anything, maybe it won't change anything. I don't know. Christiansburg, our viewer, says, I don't appreciate Biden escalating our involvement in a European conflict. This isn't our war, and Ukraine was never our ally, yet Biden is risking the safety of our entire nation. So, I mean, there's different arguments about this. To play devil's advocate, some people would argue, and I believe the Biden administration has argued this, that it actually is in the U.S. national interest because, for example, if Putin is not stopped in Ukraine, then that could lead to Russia invading a NATO ally, which, for example, the U.S. is under treaty obligation to defend. And also it could, say, encourage China to take over Taiwan, which could have big impacts on the U.S. So again, there's a whole debate about this. But, you know, there are people who support the intervention, even though it's, you know, a long way around the world, because they say it actually is in the U.S. interest to do so. But I will let you guys debate about that. Ralph Davis asks about the threatening language that Putin used in September, I believe it was, about this, and says, is Putin bluffing? What can I say? I don't know. Again, Putin has said this would be a red line. Is he bluffing? What will he do? Will he do stuff? I don't know. Hang on a second here. Fletch says, is he bluffing? Let's not find out. Sean TV thinks whatever happens, it'll probably be good for Bitcoin. Thank you, Sean, for your support. All right, I think we're getting to the end here. I think we've covered the topic for now. There may be more big developments, but I think this is where we're at right now. So we'll have to see what happens, how these things are used, how many are used, if they make any kind of significant difference, and how they're used, and whether and how Russia responds to this. So maybe we'll do more streaming on it in the future. But I think we're at that time. If you missed it, you can rewind the stream and watch us talking about this story. But I really appreciate you joining for our live coverage of this important story on Ukraine. And if there's other big developments with the Ukraine-Russia conflict, we will cover that, and other conflicts as well, or other big news. So subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. By the way, I think I dropped the ball on thanking Shano Vision over there on Twitch. Sorry, Shano Vision. Wow, Sean TV, that is very generous of you. That's very nice of Sean TV. Hey, Sean, that's really kind of you. Thank you. I really appreciate all your support, Sean TV. Very generous. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for letting a lot of interesting comments today. Thanks for letting me read your comments on the air and sending me news tips and links. Sorry I can't get to all of them, but I'm glad we got to a bunch of your comments today. And huge thanks to our moderators. Give a shout to our moderators. They are fantastic. They are why we can have chat rooms. A lot of people in the chat today. Some strongly differing views on this move by Biden, but really appreciate our moderators letting us have chat rooms and keeping it civil and respectful there. Over there on Twitch, for example, people like Big Ball of Yarn, Good Luck Duck, McBritches, Sarah, and Surly Dev. Thank you. On Facebook, K. Lowry Body, Ronald Egnor, Margaret Riley, and all of our other moderators over on Facebook and Twitch too. Much appreciated. Linda Belk and Larry on X. Beth Shepard on Facebook as well, on YouTube. Beth Mythical, Roberts May Queen, Cynthia Moon, Ruth Grafasi, Sabrina, all of our other YouTube moderators. Thanks so much to our moderators. And thanks Wildcat Mahone and everybody else who donated. So nice of you guys. That is really nice of you. You are the ones who allow me to do the channel and be able to purchase the news content for you, like the videos and the articles and everything. So I really appreciate your support for the channel. Thank you so much. If you ever want to donate to the channel, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But big thanks to you guys for your support and letting me do it. And we will certainly have more news on all kinds of things around the world as it happens. Let's see here. Follow me on X. Speaking of other news, I will post on X when I am not on the air. At Lookner is where you can follow me on X for breaking news. I'll post the link in the chat. And, turn notifications on. We have our own notification system. I don't know when big news is going to happen, so I can't tell you in advance when we're coming on the air. But you can get notified every time, really reliably, with our notifications that we've set up. It's free. We do it through Discord. You sign up once. You get a notification every time. The mods will post the link to the free notifications in the chat, and you can also find them in the description of this video on Facebook and Twitch. Also, at the same link, we have a chat. You can chat with other viewers when we're not live. It's our Discord chat. A lot of our viewers like doing that. Check that out at the same link. It's also free. And thanks to our Discord moderators as well. Really appreciate your efforts. A reminder, if you watch on YouTube, I would suggest turning the YouTube notifications on. Give you a shout, give you an additional heads up when we're live or when we're going live. But there's like this funky thing you need to do on YouTube to turn the notifications on. So for our YouTube subscribers, you're going to want to make sure that you have clicked the notifications bell and then choose all notifications. Make sure you have the bell checked and all checked when you are watching us on YouTube. Also, I'm sorry it took me so long to thank our subscribers today. Normally I thank them earlier. Like on Facebook, our subscribers over there, like Eve Richards and Lou Green and Diane Allworth and Robert Rial II. K. Lowry Body, Beth Shepard, Margaret Riley, thanks for subscribing. Marie Minicello, all of our subscribers over there. Thank you so much to our Facebook subscribers. Leanne Ticknor as well. Did I say Diane Allworth? Diane Allworth. And our Twitch subscribers, Lockies, Wall Street and Shaggy, Hectate27, Mr. Bigley Uncredible, all of our subscribers over there. Thanks so much. Big Ball of Yarn. Solid Fox. Thank you. Thanks, Breed1982, for watching. Thanks, Solid Fox, for resubscribing. And also, thanks to our YouTube members. Thanks to all of our YouTube members, like Mama Dukes, J.K. Sinar, Crypto King, Marissa Pugliese, The Pirate, and Patricia. DJ Goldenheart, Cruella, Captain Jerry Donnelly, Angelina Knox, Appletree, Eric Johnson, Tallulah Abel, I think it is, Beam Me Up, Sea Chase, I Felt That, GM2 Rob Guns, Wickedest Witch, Steve T USA, Paul Tissue. By the way, I should remind you, I do have a personal channel where we hadn't been on there in months because it's been so busy, but I did do a couple streams recently on my personal channel, and that personal channel is called Lookner, and you can find that on YouTube and Twitch. Twitch, it's Look Nerd. It's Look Nerd with a D on Twitch. Anyways, so if you want to check that out, we sometimes do some live streaming over there. It's pretty chill. It's not about news. Thanks also to our YouTube members like NY Committee, Warren Tinsley, E Oddity, Ivan, B. Earhart, William Cromer, Jason Carlton, Mama Dukes, Ronan, Luann, Muti, Kevin Graham, B-Rad, Jane Jones, JD63. Thanks to all of our members. And everybody watching. I appreciate everybody watching. Raina Hood. Texas Ranch Rocks. Cats Don't Care. If there's big news tonight, we'll do another stream. Miles Nixon. Juan Dixon Dia. Thank you, Juan, for subscribing. And Sarah for subscribing. Thank you. And did I thank Radio Gum for watching? Tatermong, thanks for subscribing. All right, we're wrapping it up. We are wrapping it up. Andrea Benavides, thanks for watching over there on Facebook. Ann Bowman and everybody else. All right, guys, we are wrapping this up. If there's big news tonight, I will come back on the air, and we'll keep an eye on what's going on in Ukraine. All right, guys, that is it for now. We have been bringing you live coverage. We have been bringing you live coverage of this development where, and thanks to our new member, Terry Williams. Thanks, Terry. Live coverage, U.S. President Biden now allowing Ukraine to use long-range U.S. missiles to hit inside Russian territory, which he had not allowed before. So that is it for now. I really appreciate you watching the stream, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.